Coming up on this episode of The Director and the D.O.P, we get into how you can use miniatures to make an epic, and then we get stuck into the audience's favourite segment. It's hot takes. Some good ones.
It's going to be spicy.
Hello and welcome to The Director and the D.O.P. I am Ethan McLean. I am a film director. This is the podcast where we break down commercial film making. I'm the directing part of the conversation, and opposite me, as always, I have the prophet of the pixels, the captain of the close-up. Mr. Liam Brennan, how are you?
I'm good, man.
How did those ones sit?
They sat really well. It was really well. But you know what I was thinking when you said the captain? I was thinking about that Tom Hanks movie where the dude goes, I'm the captain now.
Paul Green. I love Paul Greengrass. He was like such a really strong influence on my work. That super hardcore naturalism at the time.
The director of the movie.
And did a lot of the Bourne movies and United 93.
So
like I love all that stuff. At the time, I found it so naturalistic, but now I go back and watch it and go, oh, the camera's moving quite a lot.
Yeah, so you don't like it now?
I really like the approach. I think now we can achieve the same sense of naturalism without having to push the visual style quite as far. But anyway, love those films. Paul Greengrass, all over it.
I haven't watched the Tom Hanks one.
You haven't watched the
one? No. But absolutely adore the Bourne series.
It's I'm blanking on the name of the movie, which is Captain Phillips. Great movie,
Phillips.
Really great movie. Yeah. Highly recommend it. Go watch it tonight. Fantastic. Anyway, we've sidetracked straight off the bat.
Just to sidetrack, how would you compare Captain Phillips to, I don't know, say Deadliest Catch?
Actually, I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Deadliest Catch.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that in another What We Watch, because I have been watching.
I'm going to read out a comment we got.
Okay.
So this is from John McGovern, who left a comment, and it's like, making my way through the series, the grounds covered in these chats is invaluable for any freelancer, film industry worker, or production company out there, regardless of experience level, genre, and experience level twice. But that awesome comment, really, really great.
That's on the YouTube, right?
I can't actually remember where I found it. I think it was on the YouTube.
Yeah.
But great comment. Really good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
We actually really appreciate it. But my question for you off the back of that is, aren't you starting to feel the pressure now that you're becoming a little bit of a industry wisdom leader?
There's definitely a lot of like, look, we're not on here saying that we're like the best things in the world. We're being very, very honest.
It's inferred. Jokes, I'm joking.
But there is like a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of feelings.
Yeah. I think like, just to be clear, we don't think we're the best. We just like talking about our field. We've got a lot of experience of something that we're really, really into. But I think particularly from your side and the camera team and the more technical side of the business, there is a lot of hierarchy, people trying to break in, and totally. camera assistant pathways we've spoken to before is really where people are trying to learn things and really kind of level up. So you are playing that role. No one's asked me how I say cut yet or anything. Not that I say cut, but you know what I mean.
No. He doesn't say anything. It's just big, long takes.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Look, I think there's like always going to be imposter syndrome with it, but it is nice that I guess we're doing this for not only ourselves because we like hanging out, we like chatting together, but we're also doing it so that just to develop like, I guess more of a community, isn't it? And to develop a better understanding of different people's roles within the industry and just what that means so that when people do go to set, whether they're inexperienced or super experienced, they can still have maybe more compassion to other people within the industry and maybe more understanding. And it just means that, you know, there's something to talk about there and a bit of understanding. So I think it's good. Thank you, John, definitely for commenting. Yeah. We like it.
Well, interesting you bring that up because today is a big milestone in the podcast history.
Yes.
I can't remember what number we're up to, apologies, but this is the first time we were having either another DP or another director on the podcast. So really, really interested to kind of like get some insights to, we've got an amazing director on, Scott Otto Anderson. We're going to talk about a really exciting project of his, but I'm really intrigued to like actually see the inner workings of another director. This is going to be fantastic.
Totally. And it's not been from lack of trying either, has it? Like we kind of have brought guests in. We've tried for a lot of different guests, but today Scott has been great to come on with his time. This project that he's talking about is really cool.
I can't wait to get into this. I have so many questions. So let's cut our little intro banter and let's like get into it. Coming up next, it's The Breakdown with Scott Otto Anderson. Welcome to The Breakdown, and today we have a very special guest. I was saying in the intro, Scott, you are the first director we've had on. So I'm sharing the limelight for the very first time. Yeah. So for a while, we're not having any DPs on, we're not having any directors on, so you are the first director to come on, and like, what a start to have you on.
I'm very honoured to be here. Thank you.
No, it's awesome to have you here, Scott. Thank you for trusting us with your project that you're talking about today.
So what project do you want to speak about today?
Well, it's the 2027 Rugby World Cup campaign. So it's an international campaign for World Rugby via Excello, the agency largely based in Sydney, and through Photoplay Films.
Yeah. So I should have mentioned Scott is a film director at Photoplay, one of the big production companies here in Sydney. So very excited to have you on Sydney and beyond. Give us the overview. This project is wild. There's so much going on in this film. It is crazy, but give us the overview.
What's the one-liner? An epic dust storm powers across Australia that reveals itself to be hordes of fans in fan-made vehicles from all the countries across the world that might be engaged in the World Rugby Cup. It's going to be held across Australia. 27. That's kind of the simple
It's really rugby meets Mad Max, right? And just like this epic, and all the vehicles are like, I notice all the vehicles have something to do with each of the teams that are playing, right, as well. So
I mean, I think originally the idea was it was some kind of Cars That Ate Paris, Furiosa kind of mashup, but then it's somewhat Disney-fied. Like you want to have all people included. It's not quite as aggressively violent as some of those films. So it's a little bit wacky races as well.
Yeah, wait for chapter 2. Maybe we'll get a bit more violent with that.
But as soon as the rugby begins.
That's when we turn the blood on. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the kind of the production side of it and the making of it, what do you think it was about your pitch that got you the job? Like, what do you think it was about your approach that won over the creatives?
Maybe that confidence that you put forward at the time when you're completely shit scared. Look, it's a long time ago since we pitched. It was a really long process, but I was just reminded that as I was writing the treatment and we were doing the budgeting, we thought it was going to be a big VFX spectacular with some elements shot in studio, and that was going to be virtual production. That was the buzzword of it, and that was something that we'd been exploring already, and we went, this is the approach. Got about 4 days into quoting and writing the treatment and went, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We don't have time for pre. To get all of the VFX backgrounds and environments shot. We can't get out to shoot these kind of Broken Hill-esque environments and then get them into the world. We need to come up with another way. And so we just pivoted, and I had this dumb idea which I'd pitched to Ollie and M, producers at Photoplay, and I said, well, why don't we shoot it with miniatures? And so I think that was the thing that got us over the line, this absurd way of looking at it slightly differently, in a bit more of a tangible manner.
So is every one of the vehicles a miniature?
So there, of the hero vehicles, I think there are 10, maybe a dozen hero vehicles, and we built at least 8. And they're based, they're 1 to 10 scale miniatures. They are quite large, like they're a proper 2-hand lift, bend your knees thing, based on very expensive 4-wheel drive remote control chassis of a variety of different sizes and shapes. And like each one of those is $2 or $3 or $4,000 just to begin with before you even start to build on top.
Yeah. And so they're actually drivable.
They
you're not pulling them. You're like someone's.
Funny you should say drivable. Someone is pulling the New Zealand Waka, which is like a twin hull boat with a string, and that works amazingly.
Yeah.
But I think 7 of them were remote control vehicles. So we'd then modify like a crane design and put a guitar that was built from scratch by Yippee-ki-yay, incredible miniatures guys, traditional model makers.
Yeah.
A lot of the other miniatures were, we're trying to work out what's the best approach. Are we going to be building these vehicles from scratch or modifying based on existing things out there? And with the time you have and the resources, it has to be the latter. So Virginia and Nick, the 2 production designers, were kind of job sharing on this because it was such a drawn-out project. They came up with this way of taking those existing cars, building 3D printable elements to it, and then handing those over to traditional model makers who would then do all of the finishes and get the texture and the age and giving it the story. Yeah. So I don't know, like with the French cock, the rooster that they're on, the texture of all of this feathering here is made as though it's from tin bits, the same way that you'd find something out in a rural I don't know, hen.
That was my favourite car too. That was my favourite.
It's amazing.
Were you sitting there scoring them out of 10? That's a 6. That's a 7.
Oh, it was just like it really made me smile when I saw that one.
So I think I love that. That one was sort of the idea of a real agricultural thing put together by someone who might live on a farm, and they've got an old airplane fuselage. That's the base model of it, and then like we've taken other bits of agricultural machinery to use for all the little bits and segment of a tractor, like a plough wheel has gone as a front running wheel on the front, and I don't know. But whereas the Welsh Dragon, which we built as a miniature, but it was puppeteered in a kind of more Star Wars-esque manner, like we flapped its wings and moved the camera towards it, shot it against the sky, and comped that in. That was based on Welsh fire engines from 100 years ago. So all of the panels and all of the elements are all based on imagery we've seen of that. Plus it has little fire extinguishers and.
So I'd love to know like the kind of the concepting of these vehicles. Was that something that you went and did kind of somewhat solo and then brought in other members of the team, or were you kind of sitting together and kind of researching and concepting together? Like the concepting of the vehicles, what was that process like?
It was huge.
Just a little bit of PTSD comes across his face.
There's quite a bit of PTSD. We're getting through it. This is helping.
6 years,
welcome to therapy.
I mean, we did boards. I mean, in the pitch process, there was taking what the agency had already like worked on, and they'd done a lot of mid-journey renders and things, which started the ball rolling, things that they'd sold through to a client. And so we were taking those ideas and then trying to workshop them, get something maybe a little better or richer, or something that talked to my aesthetic or the way that we're working in a non-CG world.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of storyboards. Like I had storyboards in the pitch phase, and then I think we had 9 or 10 versions of storyboards before we were even awarded the job.
Oh, wow.
It was a tricky process, given the client is, World Rugby. They are a union of rugby teams, and each one of those is a union in their own country that all has to sign off on all these things. So there's a lot of
so you were like literally getting like individual vehicles signed off in pitch process to represent the countries.
To a degree. There were some things, some discussion I'd pitched.
Lots of stakeholders.
A lot of stakeholders. One of the things I really loved and wish could have been in there was this. It was an homage to the Goodies, the bagpipe spider. So the Scottish team were on the back of this giant bagpipe spider, and unfortunately that didn't go through. I think because that union didn't like it, but then ultimately it was decided that Scotland weren't performing to the level to make them in the top 12, and so there was a decision to put that on the back burner and like focus on other teams instead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's quite crazy, right? You're coming with all these crazy ideas about what the vehicles can be and what it can, but then you take into the realities of the team rankings. Like that's quite a balance, right?
Yeah, you need to open with the Springboks, obviously, because the
champs,
world champions.
Yeah.
So they like burst in at the beginning of the spot, and theirs is just sort of a safari truck with these Springbok horns. But then we're trying to give that a little bit of flavour and. Didn't want to give everything away and make theirs too fancy so that you had a bit of weight for the ones that come later. But the horns in that one I really like because they're like based on the kind of Luna Park hokey fiberglass finish with an airbrush colour. And so you want to make it kind of a bit cheap and tacky. But you're talking to the idea of these fans have got a safari truck that they'd used on a few safaris and someone from the fan team has donated it and then someone else has come in with their skill set to add this other bit. And each country, each set of fans had a whole different, approach to that build, or at least in my mind or our minds, we would build a backstory for all those things.
So I'd love to know, like, speaking of the fans and the fans on the vehicles, what was the process of shooting the miniatures and then getting the fans comped into that? Like, talk us through how that actually kind of came together.
Yeah, so we shot the miniatures on day one down at Cornell, and so we had like this reference for what the vehicles were doing roughly, what we were happy
So you're
with.
actually on location with the miniatures. You're not in the studio.
Shot the same location that they were using for Furiosa, so the same sand quarry. So you get. And dealing with the same problems of you've got white sand, it needs to be orange.
Yeah.
But Nick had worked on Furiosa, the sort of pre-production designer, so we had a bit of an in there. He's also a mad RC fan. Whereas Virginia, she was the production designer who carried it through the like 6 months or whatever it was of this shooting process. Wow. Even though it was only a 4-day shoot. And so we shot the elements of the miniatures on day one, the players who are on the ground running at 1-to-1 scale and sort of scaled all of our camera distances and adjusted the frame rates to match that. And then days 3 and 4 were in the studio. And so Virginia had designed elements and tried to work out what the most minimum build you can get that still has character. So the top of the Japanese mecha, which was actually a CG thing in the end, but we built a giant gimbal that could hold about 20 fans on board and it would rock back and forth, and then we'd time that with the drumming to move with the walk of the mecha. Awesome. The Wallaby, which is also a full CG build, but the idea of that design was it was made out of repurposed old Holdens, rusting Holdens. And that whole design of a barbecue on the back and smoke billowing out, all of that was again on the same kind of gimbal setup, but with a different action of it tilting and correcting after it had landed from a bounce, and the English lion, just this crazy white steel gazebo outdoor furniture thing. If you look carefully, it's white, but it has all these like rust marks like running through it. Yeah. This idea that it was cast iron and moved quite heavily. That we built onto a trailer and then towed that through the studio at Fox or Disney.
There's so many practical effects elements of it and tied in with the CGI. Is a lot of your background does have a high level of practical effects?
Yeah, wherever possible.
Yeah.
I think the great thing about shooting stuff practically is people can viscerally react to it.
Totally.
It was amazing to get the rushes of like these vehicles back. So I had an editor cut some selects for us so that on day 2 we knew what we were going to be matching the running to, and everyone's like, oh my God, like wow. And then weirdly on day 3 we ran into someone who had been a stunty on Furiosa, and he's like, oh my God, you shot that down. And he assumed that all the vehicles were real.
Of course. And full size. They're real, just not full size real.
I mean, that's a good sign. I felt like
that's amazing.
Who was your cinematographer on this, and had you worked with them before?
So Simon Oslands, or Oz, he and I have worked together on many things. He's shot a couple of my short films and, I feel like probably better than half of what's on my showreel. So he and I work together really well. We don't have to talk too much.
There's a lot of good shorthand.
He would want to talk to Oz. But I feel like I have confidence in what he's doing. We have an initial conversation and he can just take the reins and go for it.
Because there's a lot of back and forth about that pre-planning to get there on the day. It's like, as you're saying, because you're doing scale miniatures and then you're having to shoot real scale people and the lens distances and all that sort of stuff, you really need someone who you have that shorthand with and they sort of understand where you're coming from. You don't need a lot of back and forths. I imagine if you've shot a lot of practical effects with him already before on a lot of projects, there's a lot of conversations that don't need to be had.
Yeah, you'd hope so. But I think it was just one of those things where there was a lot going on in my head. I'd lived and breathed this thing for months by the time a lot of these people, the other heads of department, got involved. Yeah. And that's just because you don't have the money to pay these people. Virginia, the production designer, did an incredible job on this thing, but she's also my partner. And it was useful to have someone who's that close to me.
You wake up in the morning, have the coffee and go, what if?
By the way, you're not getting paid for this pre-pro meeting that we're having at breakfast. Yeah.
You get a lot more hours out of someone when you live with them.
Tip for all directors out there.
The other thing I really love about this piece, the miniatures and the fans and just the kind of the crazy Furiosa style of it. I'm really fascinated by the music cues and how the music kind of flows through and there's this kind of amazing pace, but every single time a vehicle comes on and is matched with a little bit of sound from that nation. Talk me through that kind of composing process. What was that like?
That all came out of writing the treatment.
Yeah.
I think because the agency had done such a great job up front of building, an idea of what the English team vehicle at the time was a double-decker bus or something. But then when you're trying to take that and bring something else to it, when it came to writing and I began to go, what does that sound like? How do you cue that thing? So a little beep, beep, but then maybe the sound of the trumpets that are, often appear with English fans blaring and bringing some of that audio in. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% responsible for the final mix, but with Argentina, I think I shifted the idea that their vehicle was like a low-slung Puma. So it was more of a Batmobile kind of vehicle and it had a little bit of little growl to it, like a V12 kind of growl, not a big V8, because those Pumas have a weird little sound.
So this is all pre-product. This is all when you're doing the treatment, these ideas are coming to you and you're thinking about the whole thing.
This is trying to write this, you get a 1-page script or a 2-page script, or in this case, maybe it felt like it was a 3-minute spot and it was meant to be 60. But you're writing that back and you're filling it out and trying to bring something to it. And a lot of those cues and there's an audio cue, and the Spanish team is announced by the sense of the guitar, because they have this, they're just this gigantic guitar coming through, and then the Welsh Dragon has a Welsh choir on board, and then the sound of the flame. So that's just trying to give flavour to the pitch.
It really is an incredible job of blending so many disparate little things together on a single soundtrack. I think it was like a really, really smart idea and also really well done. Was that Rumble? Who did that?
They did an incredible job.
Incredible job.
They also brought this other really nice idea in, that the sound of the chant or like the choir are singing rah, rah the whole time. And this idea, it's like, we always did call rugby rah, rah. When I was a child and played rugby. And it's just this subliminal thing that there's this rah, rah throughout the whole thing.
Did it change much from the initial pitch that you did to what we see on screen? Did the project change much? Or from the initial pitch, the 12th pitch that you did before it got okayed, is that correct? Is there much change from
there's
that?
Quite a lot, because it was going to be George Gregan and Johnny Wilkinson sitting somewhere, but they were going to be in a bar. They're going to be drinking beers. Tim Webster, for some reason, was pulling beers. The door blew off, and I think there's a really great storyboard frame from Blake. shout out to Blake Fraser, who's done an incredible job on this and everything he does. But where the wind comes in and the beer coming out of the tap goes sideways. And those like little things were always in there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And they just disappeared because beer, or the availability of that talent.
Yeah.
And then George and Johnny weren't even available in the country. So we flew over to London and did like a half-day pickup with those guys in a studio. What else changed? The vehicles designs changed over time. The English vehicle changed to I think I wrote it in as a triple-decker bus, and then it became a giant silver helmet, and then that was a little bit too like Norman Conquest, a little bit too religious invasion.
A little bit too like the English invading every country in the world again.
Depending on depending on like the stakeholders that we talked about before, their input, those things obviously changed as well.
Yeah, that was the design of things, but also having access to the talent. So Eddie, former Wallabies coach, who's now the Japanese coach. Again. The idea was that he was on board the Mecca on the drums, and Fabien Gaultier, who's that really characterful French coach, always wears these big thick glasses. He was watching up on a dune, sort of Star Wars style, takes his giant binoculars down only, to reveal his big thick glasses on, sunnies on, and then takes those glasses off to reveal yet another.
It's the best.
But I don't know, those kind of things that there probably was never time for in a 60. And look, I don't know, lots and lots of little things.
So on a project like this, you talked about it's a 4-month process. You're getting all the details of the music, the car design, the kind of the production thing. You're diving off and having all these creative ideas. How do you make sure you're not getting too caught up in the details and you're kind of remaining focused on that North Star of what you're trying to deliver?
That largely it comes to having a great producer, I suppose, someone who can manage your time and manage your resources. And, just coming up with different ways of communicating. I think by that what I mean is like having storyboards, even like my crappy scamps, and then making crappomatics as we'd go and updating those all the time meant that we had a bit of a guide. So I think even before it was signed off, even before we actually got paid a cent, the first 50, I had made a crapomatic to show that what I had boarded would fit into 60 seconds.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because I was personally nervous it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I wasn't the only one. You have that, and then you go, okay, well, it's not worth spending time on this or that.
Yeah.
There are a couple of bonus shots. You go, well, we really should pick up this thing that didn't make the cut. But then you realise that, a whole sequence that was there isn't worth worrying about. That's part of it.
And with the post-production process, having so tightly boarded and evolved those boards, did the project change much in edit, or in edit with all the kind of the practical elements, it was pretty drilled into the shot by shot?
I think we explored a few different ways in the edit.
Yeah.
Mark Bennett really, always brings a lot to it. And I think I appreciate that idea that an editor comes in cold.
Yeah.
And I go, here's the boards and here's a bit of a brief, but really it's best I don't speak to him for a day or two.
Yeah.
And let
Ethan loves you.
We
just talked about this as well.
I think technically we're going to just talk about it in a second. It's that's a life view that I'm quite attached to, that the editor should be somewhat separate from the rest of production. Yeah,
it's amazing. The way that they view what they think it is. And I think there's a lot, like some of my, one of my favorite artists, his whole way of looking at stuff is he'll go and interview people, treat it like a documentary, but deliberately not dig too deep, get, a one-liner from someone and go, oh, that's what you're all about, and then go and recreate what he thinks they've done. And it's actually because of this disjunction of communication or understanding that something interesting comes out of that. And I think there's something to embrace in that unknown and the seeing something from a different perspective, because there is, that logic. Because, you do get pretty deep when you
So in the piece, you've got your human characters, you've got your athlete characters, you've obviously got the vehicles, but there's another character that plays an important role in the film. Tell us about the lizard. Like how'd you kind of come up with that character? Not so much the character on the page, but the life of that character coming through.
So Miss Lizzy, as I called her, she was in there in the original thing from the agency. Obviously, well, not obviously, but the client really loved that idea. I think there were a series of 15-second teasers that went out, and there was one just about the lizard and the ball, storm approaching, and like Lizzy takes off in fear. And I think that's all there was time for in the original script. But then I like this idea just to give it sort of maybe more Disney humor or something, or Pixar humor, that Lizzie's constantly trying to keep up with things that are going on. And another element that I brought in just to help guide the narrative of what the hell is going on is the trophy that they're all kind of chasing sort of appears in a meteor that's being fired from across the world or from outer space and is shooting towards a destination, hits the ground, and when it bursts, the crater that's being formed is a stadium rising up out of the earth. That was something that I felt like helped us understand what the hell these guys were doing and gave them a target. So in that, like the idea that Lizzie's also kind of running, but kind of weirdly in this dinosaurs and the asteroid that hits the earth, and just there's this sort of weird like running for her life fear of it all. But the great thing about frillneck lizards, if you go and watch a few videos of them, yes, they're frightening when they like do that. That's horrifying, and if they run up you, that's also kind of terrifying. According to the TikTok videos I've seen, but the way that they run is hilarious.
It is good.
Their head goes to the sky, and their arms just flap about like little Kermit things. So yes, just the visual of that was a really great thing to lean into.
So it is so nice to hear like how your brain has worked to get you to what we see on screen. It's very cool. It's very unique what I'm picking up from what you're saying. Thank you for being so like open with your process, because I'm just like, I don't know what to actually ask, because it's so amazing.
I'm going to go to one of our classic questions, which we ask every guest, which is like, if you had an extra $100K, where would have you put it in this job?
I know that the producer would have put it into post. But, as a director, you're not in charge of the money usually. You really. But I think in this, $100,000 would have gone a lot further in art department. And had we been able to build, another 3 or 4 vehicles that we could put in there, because in the big wide shot that you see, there are about 24 teams. So vehicles, we've comped them all in various degrees, and a lot of those are things that I've just kind of built in my garage and gone and shot in a dusty car park somewhere on a red or on my Sigma FP, and then comped them in, or we've shot something else on a different angle. But it would have been fantastic to have that. But every model you build, you need another driver. You need another 3D printer. Like we were sneaking 3D printing in overnight at a tertiary institution I won't name. Among many other places, where just every 3D printer in the city was being used and pushed to its absolute limit. But art department would have been a fantastic thing.
On that budget question, as a director, do you prefer to be removed from the budget so that you can dream as big as possible? I
think I don't ask too many questions usually. It's just when a producer will come back and say, okay, I've got a techno crane and a drone and a thing, I think that's what you're thinking. Then I actually begin to think, I have to actually think about how we're going to get this done.
Seeing the finished thing in your head and then going, working backwards.
Because I wonder this from my perspective. It's like, if I know too much about the budget, and if I know the budget is a tough budget, which is sliding scales of what is a tough budget, I start to sort of hobble the camera or the things that I would ask for. Don't dream as big. So I'm wondering, from my perspective, do I just need to go, I don't want to know what the budget is. Here's what I want to get.
I think it's a really fantastic freedom to just ignore the budget and push forward and assume that it's all going to be covered. But I think the reality of working in Australia is everything is a fight. Everything is tough. The miniatures thing isn't just the result of like a genius way of approaching it and the time constraint. It was, we got quotes for budgets, post budgets here, and they're like many, many zeros at the end. Like it was huge, and it was basically double what we could afford to do it in Australia. And then so we ended up working with Masters and Savant in South Africa. Even there, where you get maybe 30% more bang for your buck, it was still, we were just over by miles. So taking a huge chunk out and putting it into really crafted practical effects saved us a ton of money in VFX.
And also to your earlier point, just to be able to like see it on the screen and react to it and shoot it rather than going like, I think it'll work.
There is something really that I think using the miniatures, just knowing what you've said now and seeing what goes on screen, I think the miniatures were the way to go though.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having that, and I'm not speaking for you, but having that limitation has almost landed you in a better, almost more like comical and more unreal place. I really like the look of it. It's just got something very cool about it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because you know to a degree what you're getting because you can see it come out of the camera, and that's amazing. It actually has this physicality, or it moves, it bounces in a certain way. But then the unknown part is trying to composite these people you've got moving around against green screen over here and sticking them onto that thing. It's like, whoa, does that look real? Is that ever going to look passable? And you end up in a heightened stylized world, but that's kind of my aesthetic.
I think it brings such a cool level to it.
So looking at the project, which part or decision or moment or shot are you most proud of when you look back? Like, is it something you fought for that made it? Was it something you adapted along the way? Is it like you look at it and go, oh, I'm so glad we did X?
Yeah, there should be. I'm sure there is. It's a while. I don't know. I'm quite a fan of the French rooster. Having like a female Napoleon with a feather boa in red, white, and blue, holding a baguette, like a sword, a bayonet.
So funny.
That was so fun to shoot. Also,
and the eyes on the rooster going crazy is just the best.
I did a little hand animation of that in the offline. And it's just like, It's like looks like it's been hand cranked up and then across.
It's awesome.
Those things are fun.
Yeah.
I think it's the French rooster.
It's a good choice.
Was there a point, sorry to butt in, was there a point where you're like, yep, it's done? Or was there a point that you just had to abandon it? Because I imagine
deliver.
I imagine you just deliver. Like I imagine that, a famous musician once said, like, no album is ever finished, it's abandoned. Because you can just keep tinkering and keep tinkering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had my best friend and we were just working through the night for months, doing all of these extra things and rotoscoping and tidying up matte shapes and stuff because there just wasn't enough time to get everything in. Plus, we were shooting, like it was a 4-day shoot with a little half day in London, but I probably shot another 25 days downstairs at the studio, picking up flags and cars and
no one else
all
sees
these
that.
elements.
That's
like
incredible.
The client doesn't see that stuff.
No, they've got no idea. But it's stuff that I feel like it needs something and need to patch something in here. And so, we're throwing things in endlessly. And no, it's never finished. I think delivery was, like the 8th of one month. And then I finished a DC, which, just kept tinkering with it because I wasn't happy with what there was a whole month and 5 days later. But I had to let go. I was kind of forced.
The editor was like, that's enough. Let's move more broadly outside just the Rugby World Cup project. I'd love to get your perspective on being a director. What do you think it is about the role of the director? And obviously every director is different. We're all different people. We all have different approaches. But what do you think it is about the role of director that the rest of the production world might not understand what we go through? Or what the challenging part of the process is?
Yeah, in my mind, I imagine people think that director knows everything, and they come in and they have an understanding of how everything's going to be approached. And the reality is probably more like you have a vision and you need to rely on all these other people who are experts in the field, and you lean on them. And if they're not available because you don't have the money to get them on set just yet, you can't spend enough time with the DP, or you haven't locked in your VFX soup, then you become an expert in something for about 20 minutes at a time. So I became an expert in, shooting miniatures on, not to, labour the point, but it was like, oh, okay, so to work at this scale, then you need to work with the gravity scale law. So it's the square root of the of your scale multiplier. So if you're shooting at 1 to 10, you're going to be shooting 3.14 times the frame rate. So you're going to be shooting at 79 frames a second to get the gravity to feel correct and the inertia of the vehicle to be working. And I can remember that one, but I can't remember anything else I learned of that.
Then you're on to the next 20-minute expert stage.
But you become an expert in high fashion makeup or something for a brief moment. And that, you go through that process of, how would a French person who would be there be looking compared to some other? I don't know. It's just that's you. You need to be open to all these things. I think all the time.
Yeah. I think a lot of upcoming directors would get a lot out of hearing you say that as well. Because I think even directors who are on the early stages of their journey feel like they need to know everything, and there's a fair bit of imposter syndrome that also comes from that feeling. So hearing you say that would, I think, give a lot of people a lot of good feelings. So thank you for sharing that. That's really good.
But I definitely do not know everything. I often act as I do, but
only in the client meetings.
Well, sometimes you have to, don't you?
Now we kind of come to the end of the interview where you have an opportunity to ask. Normally, this is different because the person gets to ask the director the question, but you're already a director, so you might not have a question for the director, but you have the opportunity to ask the D.O.P. or the director a question.
Great.
Pulls out the list.
It's got quite a long list, actually. I was thinking, so one for both of you, really, each your own take. But what is it that a director thinks they want, but until they're shown, that they probably don't need it?
Oh, what do I think that I want until and then I see it and I don't need it? For me, sometimes it's a shot that I've put into the boards or I've written into the shot list, and in terms of coverage of a scene, and we might have shot the most important shot first, whether that be the close-up of the actor or whatever it is. And then I moved to the shot that I swore I need, but I realized the first shot was so good. And then already in my head, I'm editing going, there's no way I would use both of these. And so then, so for me, sometimes we'll set up for that shot and I'll shoot it and I go, cool, I've got a couple of takes of this, but I don't want to spend an extra half an hour getting this because I already know that I'm going to use the one that we shot this morning because that's way stronger. So it's probably about, I wouldn't never not shoot it, but I often will go, cool, 2 takes, let's move on because I'm definitely using this morning's one.
Yeah, I think that's if you're strong enough to say, I don't need this thing, and your first AD will always freak out and go, what do you mean? You need this shot. If those moments, I think I spent more than a decade directing before I was capable of making a call like that. I think it's quite a brave one.
Yeah, I think because I was an editor first, I have a really strong sense in my head as I move through of which shot is going to move. And sometimes I realize, because to your point earlier, when you're dreaming up the project at the start and you're envisaging what it is, you obviously want to go as big as you can. But sometimes I'm on set and I'll go, actually, I don't want to spend the time on this because I'd rather spend that time doing this other thing that I'm actually really freaking out about right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like some of the best, or not the best, I would say some of the quickest directors I've worked with have an editor's mind. So you're not spending time on stuff that you probably like are similar to other shots that you have, or are just in the storyboard, or like, the client has requested and is not really what the director wants to get.
I think I'm really conscious about time, whether that be the time of light, like we're going to lose light, the light's going to change, or we're not going to be able to go to overtime. Like I'm really conscious about making sure that I'm putting the time where I really want it to be and not wasting it on something that I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also good to be conscious of when something's worth doing another two takes.
Oh,
right?
definitely. Yeah. Because there's some times you're sitting there, you're watching the take and you're like, I know it feels like we've got it, but we don't have it. And if we move on now, all the time we've spent on this setup is for nothing because we actually don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you've got to know when to keep pushing and when you've got it. Right? Yeah.
But that was your answer?
Yeah. So my answer is actually that every single director is so different to another director. So there's no one answer on that. But I think it's just, everyone's so different. So each director would be a different story for me. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, a little light change. Yeah. Speaking of light changing. Well, Scott, thank you. That was a really kind of like I didn't know, like watching the piece and then hearing you talk about camera, I didn't know how much detail and thought was going into the miniatures, the design of them, the process. Like, that was so fascinating hearing it. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's slowly getting through it.
How's the PTSD? Is it all right? Is this little therapy session helping?
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I can almost step back and be proud of it.
Yeah. Oh, you should be. It's awesome. Okay, and what was like when, like, just to wrap up, obviously it's a global piece. Like, World Rugby, like, bravo, nailed it. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think they were pretty happy. You never know. Just never hear from anyone.
No.
Man, that is so hard.
Yeah. Oh,
so hard.
My pet hate is when you don't hear, you triple bid, right? So you pitch on something and then you don't hear and you know they're talking to their favorite. I'm like, just tell us. Just tell us that you're speaking to somebody else. The ghosting is the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah. No, that's why I have a producer. Like, you deal with that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on and being our first director, Scott. Amazing.
Oh, absolute joy. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Been dream.
Coming up next, Hot Takes. Okay, it is time for Hot Takes, which has rapidly become the audience's favourite segment, one that we get a lot of fun from.
Turn the aircon on.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
It is good, and we have some really good ones today. We're actually going to change it up a little bit. Normally, I kind of do like a little pre-list, and we kind of, but now we're just going to throw one at each other and see what it is.
What's your favourite one,
mate? Okay,
so
so this one comes in from Tomboy, and I love, sorry, that's the Instagram name. I don't know if your real name, but Tomboy. Producers should be able to deduct $10 from your invoice for every additional word you add to your coffee order. Iced oat matcha latte with honey. That'd be $50, thanks.
I agree. Tomboy, shout out to you. I agree. I think it's not a fucking coffee date. We're at work. Yeah. I agree with that. And coffees are expensive. Yeah. I don't know where Tomboy is based, but like in Australia, coffee, the more you add to a coffee, the more expensive it is.
Yeah.
And Ice Long Black in Australia is like $7.50. And I only do like my coffee order, espresso.
Yeah. I was going to say this works really well for you because you've just got one word.
I do one. They give it to me. I punch it because usually I'm just wearing an easy rig. I don't have time to put a coffee down.
My question for Tomboy is flat white one word. I think because if flat white's 2 words, I'm getting a strong flat white. That's $30.
Yeah. Flat white's so basic. I reckon, like, you're the director. Maybe you can just like bring a bit more pizzazz to your coffee order. But I agree with that though, because there's some weird fucking coffee orders. So maybe we're going too far.
And look, I also feel like
if there's a coffee truck on set though, go nuts.
Well, I feel for the runners, right? Because the runners come up and ask for the coffee orders, and they're like trying to write down like oat matcha with honey. Like, sure, it can be done, and Unit can do it, or the cafe if you're doing that. It can be done, but I do feel we are kind of raising the level of complexity for maybe reasons we don't need to, and particularly, sure, maybe you can get that once a day. maybe once a day. Your morning one, you can get what you want. But for anything past that,
Bogan dust.
Yeah. But
you're just getting Bogan dust. You get Nescafe Blend 43 if you go too hard with the first
full
one.
American or French style, just filtered
morning
black
brown.
coffee, bang. Just move on to the next thing. So look, I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, definitely. And so the next one, the one I wanted to read out was you shouldn't be able to put senior in your title unless you've done that job for at least a decade. What do you think?
This one was sent in anonymously because I do think it's a little bit dicey, a little bit spicy. But look, I do think
there's no senior D.O.P. So this is why I'm interested.
Yeah. It is interesting because, senior does show that you have been in a role for a long time. So, look, I'm generally in agreement with this, that senior should not just attach to skill level, but also experience level. So I do think, look, maybe the 10 years thing is a little bit too much. But then so many production companies and agencies have different salary ranges. Like
Totally.
if you're a fucking shit hot producer and you're 20 and you're 24, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to unlock that higher salary level. But potentially adding the word senior should align to a level of experience.
Yeah. So because I'll always play devil's advocate with these ones, unless it's too fucked. My one is like, how everyone goes up at different rates and different speeds. So I'm just not sure if I agree with the whole decade thing.
Yeah.
This must be coming. I don't know who the anon was on this one, but this must be coming from a point of like maybe there's a bit of frustration that they've felt with seeing other people get this. But also, maybe we should just call everyone senor. Regardless of gender, regardless of experience. Senor Ethan, but what do you think about that?
But to your point, like why are we adding senior? Like if you're like a really good producer, for example, just be more paid and be a producer. But look, it does get tricky, right? So look,
let's make it so it's like a senior citizen in Australia. You've got to be over what, 55? Yeah. And that's the only time you can use senior.
Okay, all right. Which one am I going to read out next? I'm going to go with this one because I think I know which one you're going to read out. So I'm going to go with this one. This is from Ben. Shout out, Ben. Plenty of people, especially some DOPs and directors, still snob on those lower on the call sheet.
Oh, really?
It's 2026. It's time to treat everyone equally. Treat everyone good.
Look, there's not going to be a single day I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that we're all equals in the making of something. I also don't act like that ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry that that's happening to on jobs that you're on, Ben, because that's shit.
I did shorten his thing. He did say, look, it's happening less and less. And he also said, asterisk, Ethan, never you. But I think, maybe isn't it an Australian thing? We're pretty flat hierarchy in Australia. I'd be interested to know any other countries what it's like. But Australia's pretty flat hierarchy, particularly these days. In the past, not so much, but particularly these days.
Yeah. Well, Ben, there's dickheads everywhere, unfortunately.
Regardless of where they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, one more to wrap us up. What do you got for us?
I'm gonna say this one from Elvis. Elvis is a colorist here in Sydney. I've used him for a lot of work. He is Catherine Terracini, our previous guest's partner. So he says colorists should be invited to set. And his reason is, we spend our daylight hours as colorists in pitch black rooms staring at screens, then have clients come in and expect us to know what the color of the water was like on set in Fiji as if we were there. I agree. Let's get the colorists to set, get him in the fucking pool, get him a mocktail or a cocktail, depending on what production's insurance covers. Let them have a good time because they need some vitamin D so they can make some A+ work.
This is actually a hard no from me.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm
because the water will look like what I tell you it looks like as a director.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the editor in particular, but also that the colorist in this example, the editor's role, and by extension, the colorist and the post sound, they're not part of the crew. They're not part of the experience, right?
They can't sit with us.
The editor is the first member of the audience. And the editor's responsibility is to the audience. And so I think having the separation between post-production and production is quite important, because the editor, and by extension here, the colorist, shouldn't care how hard you worked. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it's out. Their job is to be the first point of audience. So Elvis, I'm sorry, matey. No trips to Fiji for you.
Book your own trip to Fiji, Elvis.
I'm a no.
Look, that's an interesting take, man. Yeah. I think, I just want everyone to have a good time.
Wants everyone to have a good time, but have just the right amount of disagreement in the comments on hot takes.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think of Scott's stories about the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, really interesting. The use of miniatures.
Oh, insane. What a project. So many moving parts, so many kind of hurdles to get through to bring it to life. He's got me excited for Rugby World Cup next year.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder if maybe moving forward, maybe we talk to directors and people who are bringing in the projects, and maybe we start putting them on the Instagram as well, just in case people aren't watching the YouTube, so that when they see people come up and,
Potentially. I mean, we're probably going to get totally screwed by licensing, but sure, why not?
Yeah, maybe we don't do that. Anyway, weigh in. If you want to see that, fine. But if not, please go to the YouTube. We always have the grabs in there. Or look up these creatives that we have on the show and actually look at their piece of work, share the love around as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, those of you who've stuck around for the long form. Spotify, YouTube, please subscribe or follow the channel. It actually makes a big difference to us and making sure that more people can see it. Because if you've got this far, we assume you like it. So spread the love. Thank you. Thank you very much, Liam. I'll see you back here in a week.
Yes, that is how long it takes, doesn't it?
See you, gang.